welcome back to Liquid Lunch on ThatChannel.com. I'm Randy and this is Aaron.
Hello.
Friday afternoon, July 15th, 2011. Welcome. We're having a great time this week. Like I said, the Summer Shake Break program that we've been running, we're having a lot of fun with. And it's, obviously I'm not supposed to be hosting the show, because usually it's Hugh Riley, but it's great to be able to sit down with you.
Yes, it's always fun.
Aaron.
It's always fun.
I'm pretty sure the rest of the show is going to go a little bit more smoothly.
Yes.
Since we're not dealing with Skype and
Exactly.
a whole lot of other things. But it was great to have Maureen Riley join us.
It's important. I'm glad we talked about that issue.
Yeah, and thanks, Mark. And to sum that up, basically, farmlands are being intoxicated with sludge, which is human waste and excrement and all the toxins and whatnot from the sewage plants. Farmers are being either paid or their land is being rented to be able to dump this stuff on it, and we'll end up eating it, and it's really not a good thing. So basically, say no to poop.
Makes you think about what you're having for lunch today, huh?
Yes.
Just stick to your sangria.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a liquid lunch.
See?
It's all good. Until they deal with all of these issues.
So now we're going to sit down with AnnaMaria Valastro from Bumblebee Gardens. AnnaMaria, welcome.
Hi, thank you.
So,
Tell us a little bit about how you got involved in what you do. And
first of all, tell us what it is that you do. Do you have bumblebee farms?
No, I'm a gardener, and I do organic gardening, which isn't unusual, but I only plant native plants, and it's just an effort to restore some local biodiversity, which we're losing at an alarming rate, and by planting native plants and creating gardens that consider the needs of wildlife and pollinators, and also creating a nice, serene space for you, has broader ecological benefits. And it also creates very active gardens as opposed to what I call sterile gardens. So a lot of people have like border gardens, you know, so gardens are meant to be over there and you look at them from a distance. You can create gardens that resemble more natural environments that you can walk through and that have broader benefits for wildlife, insects.
Okay, let me ask you, because again, me being the layman with this kind of information, what is a native plant?
A native plant? Oh, there's so many of them. A lot of them are exotic to younger people, but like your grandmother or like older people are very familiar with native plants. Asters are native plants. Often they're seen as weeds. Dense blazing stars, which are like magnets for butterflies and bees. Wild bergamot, which is an herb. It's quite beautiful. Butterfly milkweed, which is a spectacular plant with beautiful orange blossoms that you often see in really derelict places like along railway lines or highways. And up close, though, they're very beautiful plants, and they're very hardy, and they're just magnets for pollinators. And so putting them in your garden gives you huge amounts of color, and then your garden becomes really active. Now, some people don't want active gardens, like they don't want bees in their gardens, or but it makes your garden very interesting. And every day as you're sipping your sangria or your wine or your cold beer, you can sit back and, there's all this stuff going on in your garden.
You know how to talk to me.
Yes.
She's got my attention.
That's right. You just need to say sangria every couple of words and he tunes back in. But that's what's amazing. So even if you were to, let's say, design a garden for someone, it would be interesting to see the next door neighbor and have your garden attract animals and critters that should be a part of nature that we try to avoid while having all the benefits of nature, which doesn't really make sense.
Well, some people like, the gardens don't always look as tidy. And often they're changing through the seasons. So in the spring, you consider you have plants that flower in the spring and provide food source in the spring. Then those will die down, and then plants that thrive in June and the hot dog days of summer will come up, and then they die down. And then there are plants that bloom late into the summer all the way into November, and they come up. And so it is often in contrast to people who just have hedges and grass. So the look of their garden will be very clean looking, but always stagnant. Where a native plant garden will always be in transition and changing through the seasons. So I find that exciting, but for some people, they just find it kind of, I don't know if messy's the right word, but
messy's the word.
More unpredictable or changing all the time. So it's not tidy. It's not
as
tidy.
an environmentalist or somebody that's more in touch with nature, of course, you see that differently. Whereas I can imagine a house in a neighborhood that just lets their lawn grow and have these kind of plants. People don't understand the benefit of it. They just see it as, like you said, a little untidy, which, again, maybe if people will hopefully shows like this creating awareness, people can understand it is actually a benefit to society.
Because it's always changing, so people might see that as, so it's not like clean cut like a hedge and grass, for example, or we have grass and then these islands of flower beds, that might bloom all summer if they plant annuals. So it's just a changing garden. So for some people, they find that exciting because it changes every day, and they go out and like to be in their garden because they're always going to find something they didn't see the day before, the week before. But some people may not like that. They might just want it consistently a certain way.
We like to control our property and our space and, predict what's going to happen. But that being said, when you have clients who come to you, do you find yourself having to explain the difference, or are they ready for, when they approach you, are they pretty much ready for nature doing its thing?
I often have to talk to them about the fact that if they have a native plant garden, they will be attracting more like caterpillars and spiders would be spiders are a fantastic thing to have in your garden. They will have birds, likely they'll have more squirrels, and so they have to be really comfortable with that. And I also
how can you not want a squirrel in your garden?
So how can you not want a squirrel in your garden?
Yeah, how can you not like squirrels? Squirrels rock.
Yeah, well, squirrels are really good for your garden because they actually turn up the soil and they keep your soil. So a lot of people till their soil. You don't really have to do that. The insects and the animals will do that on your behalf.
Without killing so much of the nutrients,
Yeah, they kind of like already adds air to your soil just by rummaging around and putting around in there. So native plant gardening actually is really good for a lazy gardener in the sense that they just can lay back and let all the...
You're talking my language.
Yeah, and it's actually very beautiful. It can be quite spectacular if you like my garden at home actually is very low in the spring, and then in midsummer it gets to be about knee to thigh high, and then in the fall the taller plants come out. So every season it's a different height, and the plants are different at every season. But I do have problems sometimes where people hire me because they like the idea of organic native plant gardening, but may not in the end really want those plants, or are unfamiliar with the plants, aren't really sure about the insects in the garden, and so sometimes there's conflict. Like I have a very large garden in London, Ontario right now, and it's a commercial space, and it's a wraparound garden. It's on a corner, and if you look at the other three corners, one's a condominium, which is just hedges, grass, and then trees. The other one's a funeral home, which is just a hedge and grass. And then the other one is just grass with some hostas. And the commercial property actually has a meadow in it. So it has a cascading meadow. And then in the later summer, it has asters and very tall ironweeds. And so people actually, when they walk up the path, they walk very close to some tall plants.
Or if they had a glass of sangria in their hand,
they could hide in the hide in the plants.
It's beautiful. It's all perspective. So, I see that, Aaron. That's what we do here. We try to help people solve problems.
It is perspective. Like I personally like to be close to plants or walk through them and feel like they really be able to take a look at them very closely. But for some people, they feel like they want
intimidated.
They want the gardens back and see them from a panoramic
My
view.
girlfriend's studying landscape architecture, and so she's going to be managing a lot of projects. And I know that she has a green thumb, more than that. She has several green thumbs. But this is the kind of thing that I think would really interest her, and I'm going to pass on your information to her because I could easily see it, because I obviously I know the way she's thinking, the way that they're training at Guelph.
Yeah.
She's at the in the program at Guelph.
Right.
And so I could absolutely see designing public gardens and things. Doesn't it always come down to awareness, though? You know,
Yeah.
if people knew how beneficial this is, people then, I don't want to say would be more tolerant. I think they're just more accepting.
Just more open to trying something different.
We're more relaxed.
Right.
You have to be more relaxed. And the other thing, though, is that I never water my garden, ever. It's just the way you put the plants in, and you make the most of the environmental conditions of that area that you're putting. And I rarely water my garden. I haven't watered it yet this year, and it's coming up to 2 weeks of no rain. And I think it's going to rain soon, but it would be into the third week that I would consider watering. My plants are still very bright. Their leaves are fine. And so that's another benefit of doing it native, because you don't force plants into spaces they're not happy in.
Well, and this is the thing. Like for me, I wouldn't want my whole front yard being a native garden.
Yeah.
But it'd be cool to have a portion of it, and then you know, like you can work it in, and that's what I'm saying with the architecture side of it all, is that, you know, instead of it being like overrun, it's well thought out, and it's, you know, then it would become, I think it would enhance the beauty and the acceptance of
Well,
design.
you can actually do very traditional layouts and use native plants, because native plants are very beautiful. So you can actually have a lawn, or, you know, with a border garden, or, you know, an island of a flower bed, and still use native plants. It still benefits like bees and butterflies and birds. But the other thing that's I'm really hoping that will fade away is the whole mulching thing. So people add pounds and pounds and pounds to mulch to their gardens, because it really cleans up imperfections in your garden. But what happens is it takes away access to soil. So our native bees burrow in the winter to hibernate, and when you keep adding mulch year after year, because the mulch doesn't break down very quickly, so, you know, some of the gardens may have 6-8 inches of mulch, and there's no way for bees to access soil.
Right.
And it actually eliminates the soil altogether. So what people do is they have soil, they put their plants in, and then they put down mulch. And then as their plants get bigger, they add more mulch and keep adding more mulch. And then the soil is just gone. And that, a lot of people think that one of the reasons our bee population is declining is they die in the winter, because they can't actually find habitat to hibernate. And so I really try to talk my clients out of mulch. Like maybe the first year when your plants are small, you can add mulch, but after that, I say, look, dirt is really beautiful. They you just have to get used to the look of dirt. You know, dirt is fine, and if you want to add mulch, you can add a really light dusting of mulch. But this,
what's mulch? Is that the bark, little barky stuff you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
It just seems that we forget to allow nature do its thing, because nature just takes care of itself.
Yeah,
and it will grow and continue.
Once your garden's mature, you don't even see the ground.
Right.
You know, like you can ignore that part. But I really want people to like dirt. They appreciate the look of dirt. And if you need a really clean look, you can just add dirt. You can bring in dirt instead of mulch, and put down a fresh layer of dirt every year, and then just get used to the dirt. And
we need to make dirt
just
sexy.
Dirt needs to be sexy. Yeah.
So do you stick to only native plants, or do you mix in, or depending on what your client is looking for, do you mix in with other plants?
Well, sometimes the gardens I come into already have non-native plants, and then I just add some native plants, and it's a mixture. But I personally don't go out and buy lots of commercial plants unless there's a really specific request by the client.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't often go to commercial nurseries and buy like lavender or you know, the whole point that I like to offer people is that I'm a native plant expert, and that the gardens are you know, are designed for ecological value, as well as, you know, being able to lounge in them, drink your beer, have barbecues and all that. So it's a combination. So I don't ignore like, you know, being in the garden. I want people to be in the garden, but at the same time, I think urban centers can contribute to green corridors. So it's one way that your little postage stamp garden can contribute to a greening of on a regional scale.
Absolutely. And like there's so much construction and new developments in the city. It would be nice to see some of these developments inherit this kind of gardening. And it would have been nice to actually see your portfolio, because you do beautiful work, and maybe next time you come you can share it. But I wanted to grab your website and share it with our viewers so that...
Website, bumblebeegardens.ca.
Now, I just want to tell you that at the Royal York, right at, I guess, University in front, they did a planting, or maybe it was University in Adelaide, but right down there, there's a series of plantings. Now, they're box plantings in the sense that they're a square, they're rectangular, and they have a concrete border, and there's trees. But the ground cover is native grasses, switchgrass, and it actually looks like a mini little grassy field.
I'm trying to picture.
Yeah, and I noticed it right away because I thought, oh, what's that? And it looked really nice. It looked grassy and kind of soft, and I recognized that they put
everybody else is wondering, who's that woman rolling around in the grass?
That's right. She seems to be so comfortable and familiar.
And so even things like switchgrass, which have seed heads, offer seed for birds. And so even little things like that, you know, so somebody did that. I don't know who, but it might have been the city.
And I would love to see you hopefully be a part of things like that more, where you educate and take over, you know, possibly projects that's going to introduce that to people. And it wouldn't hurt to have signs explaining it, because most people, they just look, they're like, oh, pretty flower and greens, and wait, there's a bee. But it would be an eye-opener just to have one single sign, because sometimes that's all it takes for someone to take interest and continue.
Well, is the City Hall doing a whole lot of renovations up there? Like it's a massive project. It's
on the roof? On the roof?
On the second level,
Oh, that's a garden. They do a rooftop garden up there.
Right.
Are they making it deeper?
They should be talking to you.
Yeah,
well, they have. There is somebody in the city who specializes in rooftop gardening. I think it's a special knowledge.
But I mean native plants.
Yeah, I think I don't know if he does native plants. He might. But
call him out.
That's right.
Well, rooftop gardens only have so much soil, so it's a challenge. Like you can't plant things that have deep roots, for example.
Well.
But I think they have a vegetable garden up there.
That's what I was going to say, because I would like to see more rooftop, but it is limited.
Yeah,
but
it's
I would
more
think
limited.
Better than nothing at all.
Well, in a rooftop garden, there's a whole lot of
drinking for you, yes.
Well, no, see, I was not thinking that this time.
Not yet.
What I'm saying is that you need to have a whole lot of structural change. Like you just can't take an old building and drop
because there's
2,000
weight,
pounds of mud on top and or soil and start, you know, like it needs irrigation and draining. It needs I mean, it's you know, there's a lot to that. So it's almost like, you know,
it's a special knowledge engineering thing.
Yeah, and I think it always comes down to money or votes. So no, really though.
I think you're right.
For the city, like there's no reason why the city's not doing that and creating awareness. But maybe the people of the city don't know either. But you said the gentleman.
But people can do stuff like this sort of like within their own area.
Yes.
They can do this without the politicians.
Absolutely.
They can just do this on their own. And people are doing it on their own.
And, you know, and I think it's great because I was just suggesting that government is almost like should be the leader in this, and if it isn't, it's kind of sad. Like it should be the leader, and once the government leads it, it creates awareness.
Well, we always go back to that point, though, right? It's always kind of like, how do we get the government to listen?
Yeah, money and votes.
That's the support that we need with all of this.
But like you're saying, this is something that everybody can do.
Yeah,
everybody can do with a small piece of land.
Yeah, exactly, and it's and it does make you relax because it's a slower way of gardening because gardens, native plant gardens, take a little bit of time to come in, and you learn to slow down and not to push it.
You allow.
Sorry?
You allow for nature to do its thing.
Yeah, you just let it kind of do its thing, and it has its own little rhythm, and you can appreciate that rhythm. And you don't have
T-shirts made. Soil is sexy.
That's right.
Dirt, yeah, that's right. Soil is sexy.
I guess for those who really are interested in this, but maybe aren't looking to redesign their garden, and hire someone to do so, but they want to grow some native plants. Do you have any suggestions as to where they can go and get some and start a small garden for themselves?
Some of the nurseries in Toronto carry limited amounts of native plants, and like Summerhill has some, and Fiesta Farms has some. And the trick is just to read up on the plants and give them what they need. And the other trick is to give them space, because native plants are, you know, they're designed to spread out. Like a lot of the other plants that you get in commercial nurseries, they're manufactured. They're done through horticultural systems, and they may seed out, they may not seed out. But often people put a plant they like here and think it's going to stay there, and then they'll put another plant here that they like and think it's going to stay there. But native plants that often move out.
They're a little bit more aggressive.
Well, it's not that they're aggressive, but they're native to the region, and the way they colonize is that in the natural world they all spread out. So to give them a little bit more space. But if you want like a more comprehensive list of plant choices, then you would have to go through a native plant nursery, and there's three. There's one in north of Toronto called Grow Wild. There's two larger ones near Long Point, and then you would need someone like myself probably to go get them for you.
So do you have these listed on your website as well?
Sorry?
Do you have that information listed on
No,
your website
but they
as well?
can, if they contact me, I can give them that information.
That's great.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
Fantastic.
and they can go by on their own. One is wholesale, one's retail, so
amazing.
a little bit trickier.
Soil is sexy.
It is. Dirt is good.
Dirt is good.
One of the places she referred to was wild. I caught that. Did you catch that, Aaron? You did, eh? See? Soil is sexy.
You're going to have to keep an eye on this one.
Oh, you're welcome.
You so much.
Thank you so much for sharing.
Again, your website, bumblebegardens.ca. If you have any questions, don't be shy.
Yes.
Contact AnnaMaria.
And definitely get on that site and
there's
check
your
out
site
the
right
designs.
there on the screen. And yeah, so what we're going to do is we're going to take another break.
Yes. And we'll be back with Ilyan Balastro.
So the community to stop the mega quarry, it's about bringing together different communities from all over Southern Ontario in solidarity in support of the land, and to bring awareness to this proposed mega quarry in Melancton Township. We want to come together to celebrate our bountiful land, our precious aquifers, and the importance of continuing to farm in prime agricultural land in Ontario, and to continue to have the environment and sustainability of our landscape and communities at the forefront of our thoughts.